Oh gosh, my hand hurts from practicing too much with the cross product and the right hand rule. We are going to use a cross product. Cross product is a mathematical operation. I'll read it to you. In mathematics, the cross product, vector product, or Gibbs vector product is a binary operation on two vectors in three-dimensional space. It results in a vector which is perpendicular to both of the vectors being multiplied and therefore normal to the plane containing them. Good. It has many applications in mathematics, physics, and engineering. So I was thinking, I thought hard about this, how I'm going to do it. And I've realized that on the wall, on the ground, we're always going to be moving relative to where we're looking. On the ceiling, we're probably going to have the same thing if we're allowed to climb on ceilings. That's an if. And on the wall, well, we need to figure out which direction you're facing. And you can use the normal to figure out where to go, but there's a problem in that the normal itself just shows you away from the wall. You need to figure out how to go to right. Now, the only way to figure that out is with the cross product. Using the cross, if you know which way up is, and you know which way out is, you can figure out which way right is using the cross product, because it will give you the perpendicular product. Now, cross product is the cross product's direction is determined by the right hand rule. Yeah, because basically, if you put your hand like that, pointing to A, and your other finger like that, pointing to B, the direction of A times B will be upwards. Notice that that means if you do B times A, it will go downwards. For instance, if you point your middle finger in the direction of A instead, and then rotate your hand so that A points in the direction of B, you notice your thumb will now be pointing down. So it's a really interesting thing. You can see that the magnitude of the A times B actually changes and then even goes down as B rotates around A, rotates on the same plane as A. It's very useful, and one of its uses is, I guess, in video games. Who knew I'd find a use for cross products in video games? I only learned about this sometime this year, sometime within the last few months, just out of curiosity. But a lot of these things I've been learning just for curiosity have really helped me in making these games. Trigonometry may seem useless. It's absolutely helps greatly in games. Say you want to shoot something in a particular direction, you gotta know your trig, or at least your Pythagorean theorem. I was using a bit of trig, and then I realized I don't actually need trig. I can make it simpler if I just use the Pythagorean theorem and cancelling a vector and stuff. So I did that. Because in Flash and VB.NET you can't normalize vectors. So what I did was I had an x, and I wasn't even using vectors. I was using two separate variables. One was a float that represented the x velocity, and one was a float that represented the y velocity, and together they were my kind of vector that I made up. I used them as a vector. And to normalize the vector, when I wanted to head objects in that direction, and I found out the direction by, getting the x coordinates of one object, of the object I was moving towards, and then taking that away from the x coordinate of the object I wanted to move towards the other object, and same with the y coordinate. To normalize, I just took the Pythagorean theorem of the x and y variables. I used the Pythagorean theorem on them to find the hypotenuse of the triangle that they would make, or which would be the magnitude of the vector, and I divided each of those individual floats by the magnitude to get a normalized vector, and it worked. It worked great. Now, so the other thing is, trig and Pythagorean theorems definitely come in handy. Trig is more useful when saying something like, well, say you got like a cannon and you aim it in a specific angle. You can then find the sine and cos of that angle, and you want, say you got a cannon and you're shooting a ball, and you aim the cannon in at a specific angle from the ground. Then you want to shoot the ball off in that with an x and y velocity, so that it goes in that direction. And then you want to decrease the y velocity by 1 every second or so, so that it eventually starts falling. So that it slows in the upwards direction and eventually starts falling towards the ground, but stays still in the x direction and just keeps going forward. Assuming you haven't put air resistance in your game as well. But then how would you get the initial velocities how would you get the initial velocities? Well, simple. The sine of the angle will be your initial your initial upwards or y velocity, and the cosine of the angle will be the initial x velocity, the normalized velocities. Then you can times by 5 or something to give it more power. But that's how you get the original velocities there. So it's very useful to learn maths and trigonometry and Pythagorean theorems for games. But now I've actually managed to put cross-product into the games, and this really excites me. It really excites me, and I really like this. So, please excuse my long speech, but I really like this. So, now I need to actually check how the heck we do a cross-product with a vector 3. Because I saw it earlier. It's a good thing I saw it, because I saw it earlier while I was searching. And that's what kind of made it tick in my head. I didn't realize you could do cross products. I kind of just saw it. So cross product of two vectors. So you type in the left hand and the right hand side vector. Okay, yeah. Vector 3 dot cross, and you put in this vector in that vector, and then it returns the that vector times that vector. Great, good. So I've got it remembered in my head. Up times normal. And all we're going to do for the moment is that when you land, I want a giant big thing in the middle of the screen to point to the right. I just want a giant debug, because that's all I'm doing for the moment. So on controller collider hit, I want else is grounded equals false. And I also want, like, if you don't hit the ground, I want you to debug, draw array, and the start being something like, and the start of the array will be vector 3 dot up times 12, so that'll start in the center of the world and then move up by 12 and move up by 12 units. That'll be your starting point, and if you remember, that's the middle of the box that we made. And then I want it to go in a specific direction, and this direction will be the vector 3 dot cross product of these two vectors, vector 3 dot up and vector, and what will the other one be? The normal. It will be hit dot normal, and I will times that by 12 as well. Whoops. And I will times that by 12 as well. And then what else? What was next? Oh yeah, color dot cyan. I know I am Australian. I write in British style, but for programming, nope. And I'll have it last for something like, 50 frames. Let's just make some huge number. 1,0,0,0,0. Okay, I'll have to show it to you guys next video. See yas. Bye.